You're watching IGN Live at Gamescom. Video games have come a long way, but it is flat out embarrassing that it's taken this long to get a first-person shooter where the guns talk to you the whole time. Anyway, better late than never. Here to tell us about High on Life, Chief Creative Officer Mikey Spano and Executive Producer Matty Studivan from Squanch Games. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Talking guns. Which comes first, the mechanical side of it or the personality?
Oh, that's a tough question. So originally what we did was kind of look at Sesame Street, a bunch of Jim Henson stuff, kind of sketch out like what would Elmo look like as a weapon, what would Ernie look like as a weapon, and so we started there, and then Justin kind of reached out to his friends and was like, hey, you guys want to do some guns? And that was kind of how we kicked it off. And from there, as we figured out mechanics we wanted to do, we started to match like, we can really picture this actor for this gun, and we can really picture this actor, and we kind of went back and forth and tuned everything until it felt right.
Yeah, it was really important for us to we knew that we were going to be able to work with Justin and get sort of the actors in the comedy, but to really go and fine tune the mechanics and the core loop. And so that was pretty much all there in the vertical slice.
Has anything has the actor done something that's that changes how the gun works, or give feedback where that's not how I would be as a gun?
Yeah, so we had Tim Robinson in. He does Creature, who's kind of the big yellow gun with the little minions that come out. And so we had him just riff on the idea of having these little kids that basically they pop out, they live their whole life and they die and they love it, right? They want to die. And so the more we had him talking, the more we realized we got to do more funny stuff with these little guys, right? And get more funny dialogue around it. And so it kind of changed how long we have the guys out and things like that. And same thing with Knifey. We had Michael Cusack in, and we weren't anticipating that being so popular. And Knifey was just so funny that we were we got to figure out more stuff to do with him. And so from there, we kind of added executions in, and we added a few other things.
Yeah, it actually wasn't showing up on the screen as much originally. And I think after that performance, it was okay, we need the tech to be able to allow the designers to bring Knifey up as soon as he's talking, because he's so popular.
Nice. Now, you gave me a pitch. We were talking sort of before we shot, and there's the best sort of byline for this game, which is Blade Runner if Jim Henson did it.
Yeah. So early on, we were kicking around different ideas, and I think everyone kind of expected to make something that looked like Rick and Morty, right? And I love Rick and Morty, I love the style, but I really wanted to do something different. I wanted it to feel like a 80s movie, and so I was racking my brain how to describe it, and I thought, well, what if Jim Henson had made Blade Runner? And so that was sort of the running theme that we were pushing on the team, and I think as soon as we had that, it really clicked, and the team really knew what to do.
Yeah, I think it's children of the 80s and 90s too. I think we were talking about earlier, the toyetic nature of just the TMNT characters and the ooze and the glass with the weird characters inside. You can just see that throughout the game.
Yeah. There's a lot of references to Ninja Turtle toys in there for sure.
Yeah. No, it reminds me of the weird bioorganic Nerf guns that they did.
Yes.
This is shaped like a warthog kind of. You're I want a Gatling gun. I don't get it. So let's talk about the structure of the game a little bit. You basically kind of get turned loose and you get to bounty hunt different bounties. How open is it, I guess?
So it depends. So we have a narrative that we're really trying to tell. So a lot of it is linear in that sense, that we're trying to get a story. So there's different acts, but within those acts, there's bounties. You can choose the order to do some of the bounties, and that totally changes the game. You also have backtracking to levels you've already been to, where you can get to new areas that you couldn't get to before because you didn't have the right abilities. So we really want to try to make the levels feel really dense and kind of put in treasure chests and NPCs and little side things for people to discover. So it really is a mix of linear for story and then sort of open world for exploration.
Yeah, the first level that we're showing in the slums is one of the more linear levels, but as soon as you start going to the bigger worlds, it definitely opens up a lot, and there's a lot of exploration possibilities. You can stay on the main path. You can really go and check different things around, especially if you get a new gun, because each gun, they have an ability fire, which not just is for combat, but also is traversal and lock and key mechanics throughout levels. So we really push people to go back.
Nice. So like a Metroidvania, basically.
It is, yeah. Metroid is a huge inspiration for this game, especially Metroid Prime.
Yeah. So the demo you just showed off, that was the boss fight, has you just swinging around with a grappling hook. Should we expect a lot of verticality in this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing we wanted to push early on. Our design director, Eric Meyer, really loves crazy fast puzzle moments, big traversal moments. He previously worked on Sunset Overdrive, so there's a little bit of that influence in here, and he's been really pushing the team to get crazy elaborate traversal puzzles, and your kit really grows throughout the game, so by the end you're mixing and matching all this stuff and doing these crazy fun traversal puzzles. And you're going up, you're going down, you're walking on walls, you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, switching guns, comboing the guns. There's all that stuff built into the combat.
Yeah.
How much did the guns talk? I guess, like, how much dialogue got recorded? How much that was scripted? How much that was just off the rails improv?
So, a surprising amount of it was actually scripted. We hired a narrative director, I guess is his title at this point, but really he's also the head writer. His name's Alec Robbins. He's like a stand-up comedian. He makes Twine games in his spare time. He's written for TV shows, and he really loves games. And so we brought him in, and he knew exactly what to do. And so we just said, write what you think is going to work, and when we get in the booth, if it's not working, we have people improv, but 9 times out of 10 what he wrote is really funny and it works.
Yeah, a lot of Squanch is really built on, like, a lot of us have worked at many different game studios, know how to make games, but we also bring in a lot of people from comedy, from TV, right? And Justin obviously knows everything about that, and then is a huge gamer, and we kind of like mix in the pot, and they tell us like, this is not going to work for us, so we figure out a way on the game side to do it, and we're like, well, hey, like, picking this thing up over here is like incredibly difficult for these 7 reasons. Can we please just write something else, right?
Yeah.
And they're super willing to always like figure it out.
Yeah.
Cool. Do the guns, like, do they have personalities? Do they have relationships between each other?
They do, actually. Yeah, part of the story is sort of, there's a moment where their relationships kind of come to a head, and there's some thinking you have to do about how you want to handle the situation. So each gun kind of has an archetype personality. Like, we got a gun that's kind of a bully. She kind of thinks she's a badass. Then you got a gun that's just insane, which is Tim Robinson. And then you've got a gun who's just kind of like stoner vibes, chill gun, and that's played by JB Smoove. He's Gus. That's his name. And they all kind of have different reactions to stuff that you do. There's a line in the story, like I said, really comes to a head, and they all react to that differently. And so you kind of have to navigate, like, well, what do I say here? Which gun do I use? Like, you kind of feel guilty for using this gun or that gun, right? So they definitely have their own stories.
Yeah.
So are you basically, like, if you have one gun out, are you pretty much just directly only hearing from that one, or you got 2 out here, you got the knife out here? But, like, let's say you play through the game with just one gun. If you switch to a different gun, does it make it basically a totally different playthrough?
Totally different, yeah. So we have Kenny in this level early on. You can't have another gun here, so he's the only one you're going to hear for this area. But for the other levels, you have options about which guns you're going to have and which guns you're going to use. So as you go, you can, let's say you really love Sweezy, and she's kind of the one I was talking about, kind of like the bully gun, and you love her for whatever reason. You're getting a totally different playthrough narrative-wise than you would if you had Kenny out. And you can mix and match in the mission and hear, like, I wonder what Kenny would say to this character. Switch to Kenny, hear his take on it, right? Switch to Gus, hear his take on it. And by the end of the game, you have 5 guns and a knife, and so there's a lot of options there. You're not ever hearing like all 5 of them at once unless it's like in a cutscene, but in the actual combat, it's really like, if you think of something like Gears of War where you have your squad and you're hearing from like some of the crew, that's kind of how the guns work. It's not like you have a crew and you have guns talking, it's really just, this is your squad.
Yeah, it's something we have to think about a lot on Trover, and I think is being thought about a lot on this game, is like, with that many guns, that many characters, and then that much both written and improvised dialogue, it could feel like it's blasting at you all the time. I mean, in this level, we're trying to teach you a lot of stuff, so we have to like tell you a lot. But as the levels open up, it's been important to Justin and Mikey, I think, to like, okay, where are the moments of quiet, where you're like exploring, where you're like, just what you're doing, you can kind of like take in, like, this is the like how ridiculous the game is, right? And then we'll bring you in with like another NPC encounter.
Yeah.
One of the things that just kind of recently popped up about this is that there's an in-game TV show, there's like TV that airs stuff. You've made some original cartoons, you've licensed feature films, and you've got like in-game commentary. That seems like just a lot of work for like something that's could be completely missed. What other stuff like that is in there? Just
that's sort of our bread and butter, is like making something that should be easy really, really hard. So we had this idea of like, wouldn't it be funny if we had a commercial on TV? And then from there it just blew up into like, let's do interdimensional cable style shorts. Like, how do we do that? And then we were like, wouldn't it be funny if you could watch a movie? And so then Matty had to figure out, how do we license movies? And so we got 4 full-length movies in there. We got 20 plus little shorts at this point.
Yeah.
We also have a bunch of TVs throughout the game that have like narrative functionality. So like, you'll be hearing from bosses, you'll be hearing from NPCs, all kinds of stuff just on the TV. It's crazy. We probably shouldn't have done it, but it's awesome. I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
So you announced that you've got Tammy and the T-Rex, which is like a 1994 Denise Richards movie.
Yeah.
Can you reveal the other 3, or are they a secret?
I could say they're along the same lines as that, but honestly, for people who are fans of those kind of movies, I don't want to spoil it for them, because we try to have one per act, that's like, so there's 3 acts basically, and then we have one additional one that's got commentary on it from the Red Letter Media guys. So it's. I want to talk about them because I love all these movies so much because they're so bad in the best way, but I want fans to be surprised.
Yeah, that seems like that is the kind of spoiler I want to watch out for.
Yeah.
Surprised by that.
Yeah.
Now, it's not readily apparent from the gameplay we're seeing, but there is a surprising amount of like realism. Like this looks very cartoony and very much like, you know, like Justin's art style, but I was kind of surprised at the first reveal that like humans look like regular humans.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit video gamey, but like more in the realistic side. Tell us about that decision. Like, how did that come about?
That was actually a really big deal to me early on. So I'm the CCO, but also I'm the art director for this game. And so for me, the art style was really, really important. And I wanted it to feel like that Alice in Wonderland feeling where Earth is this regular Earth. Your house is a regular house. It's drab, it's normal. And then you step out and you're in this crazy alien landscape with all these colors and wacky guns and just weird stuff. And for me, that feeling doesn't work if everything's weird. So if everything's weird, nothing's weird. And so for me, it was important to maintain that line between like this stuff is real and this stuff is weird, but it all matches. It's all physically rendered. Everything's got like specularity and subsurface and all these, you know, technical terms. But it was important to get all of that right.
Yeah, you can see in the demo that if you're looking around your house in Blim City, that it was actually just taken directly as a crater from Earth, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure with Earth being as far along as it is, we'll probably show that in the near future.
Cool. Well, obviously, like I want to play the base game first, but do you have anything planned for sort of like long tail post support, more guns, more levels, anything like that?
So we're gonna have to see what fans think of the game. If the game does well, then we have infinite plans for this franchise, and I hope it becomes a franchise. We're so in love with this game. Like everything about it, we care deeply about. So we're hoping fans like it. We're hoping it sells well so that we can keep making more. We definitely are already planning a DLC, and hopefully it does well enough that we can actually finish that and give it to people. But we just really can't wait for people to play it and see what the appetite is.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming by and showing off an extremely weird game.
Yeah.
I'm very into it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Totally.
thank you.
High on Life is coming to Xbox and PC on December 13th, and while I'm very sad to report that none of the other games in the show contain talking alien guns, a lot of them have some combination of guns and aliens and or talking, so keep watching IGN Live at Gamescom for more of those things.